Welcome to Our Life in Transition. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast deals with issues about LGBT families and trans-specific topics. We would love to hear from you and welcome your questions and comments. However, we will not tolerate any discriminatory language or hate speech, so please, just don't do it. Enjoy the show. Welcome to Coffee Break, presented by Our Life in Transition. Hello, everybody. It is Shannon. Thank you for joining me again for another episode of Coffee Break, presented by Our Life in Transition. Sorry for the whistling in the beginning. I've got the theme to Aristocats stuck in my head because the Munchkin keeps watching it incessantly. I'm going slightly mad. I'm not going to lie, but you make do. So speaking of the Munchkin, it does occur to me that Mother's Day is around the corner, and so I thought I would sit down today and kind of just chat a little bit about being her mom. She's in the other room napping and take up most of the sofa. Rachel's got a little bit of a spot to sit there and watch TV while I'm in here recording, but we give her all the space that she needs right now, so that we have a hour or so to chill and get some things done. Because when you're in quarantine with a toddler, it's hard to be productive. So, but anyway, so like I said, Mother's Day is coming up, and I always have complicated feelings about Mother's Day. I get a little, Mother's Day has always been a little weird, because, my mom lost her mother around Mother's Day. My mom's birthday is also right around Mother's Day. And unfortunately, she's not with us anymore. So, it's always like a weird couple of weeks for me, for that reason. But, it's been nice the past couple of years, because Rachel is really sweet. And she has gone above and beyond to make sure that every year that I know that it is my day too. And that means more than I could ever possibly describe. I did have one Father's Day when Rachel was pregnant. We had one Father's Day. I didn't like it. And I don't know if it was almost more like performative because I wasn't out to everybody else. And I guess at that point I was still trying to pin down exactly how I identify. I was still kind of equivocating and going, gender fluid, yes, maybe. But no, it didn't feel right because it wasn't. But I've always, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, I've always had this just motherly kind of sense. The idea of being dad, even before I really understood what was going on with me, I didn't like it. It just never felt right. And I love my dad. Um, but um, being seen as someone's father never appealed to me. Um, and, that kind of, you know, masculine relationship um, that dads are supposed to have with their kids, I guess, always was very foreign to me. And, when I was a kid, I would look at my mom and be like, yeah, that's it. That's me. I'm like you. And that made sense. So even, when I was younger and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have kids one day. I'm like, I guess I'll be dad. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be like that. I'm going to be like mom, not what my head kind of envisions everybody's dad to be like. Um, and I've always hated kind of the tropes that modern society, especially, in the age of post 20th century sitcoms where, you know, everybody looks at dads as being bumbling and stupid and like, some sitcom idiot. And, after we got married, nobody ever said anything like that, but there's like this immediate way that people kind of treat you when you have a spouse or when you have kids, where they look at you and go, oh, well, so-and-so's husband, idiot. Or, no, dad doesn't know anything. Which is ridiculous because there are countless fathers out there who are loving and caring and sweet and in no way, shape, or form have any kind of issues with their gender and are perfectly comfortable being a guy in all of the ways that one would expect, but, don't fit that caricature that we have kind of constructed around fatherhood, especially in this country. But it took us a long time to have our daughter, and I'm not going to get into why. But in the time that we had to prepare before our daughter got here, I spent a lot of time thinking about the kind of parent I wanted to be. And, it just, and I've said this before in other forums, the universe is weird in that, after all that time of going, I don't know if this is going to happen. And, I would always try to encourage Rachel. I'm like, it's going to happen when it's right. And in a weird way, the time was right when it happened because literally it was a week after I came out to Rachel that she told me she was pregnant. And, in that moment, I had in that moment I was confronted with a weird situation. Where I had fathered a child, but I didn't want to be a father, didn't feel like a father. And, I've spoken before about the fact that point when I finally kind of broke and Rachel and I had that very honest conversation about what was going on with me, which I was working up to, but did not intend on having when we had it, but things got away from me a little bit, and we had to talk. But I've said this before, that she saved my life, because I was having this, epiphany, for lack of a better word, where I was, I was having a come to Jesus moment, where I was really confronted with the reality that no, you're a girl. And so, that means you either have to blow up your entire life or try to keep hiding this like you have been for years. I knew I couldn't hide anymore, and I was utterly terrified of being honest and coming out, and I didn't know what that would look like. And so I was at the point where I was just like, well, I'm so overwhelmed by this. Maybe I just need to just give up. And, I think that it is very common for a lot of trans people to feel suicidal at different points, but it's not something that is often acknowledged. It's not something that people want to hear about, because it's depressing, it's scary, and we have such stigmas about mental health in this country that, if you say, hey, yeah, I was suicidal at one point, then people will go, oh, okay, well, you're crazy. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to deal with that. But truth be told, I was suicidal at that point. And learning that I was going to be a parent stopped me in my tracks. And I had to really assess what that meant for me. And after years and years and years of waiting and hoping and praying that we would have a baby, I was finally confronted with the thing that we had hoped for, the thing I wanted so much, and at the same time about to just give up on my life altogether. And she pulled me back from the edge. The time was right. And so, I'd had the talk with Rachel, but I didn't have to tell anybody else. I mean, Rachel knew about my little gender explorations when we were in college, and nobody else knew about it. So, I didn't need to tell anybody else. I could just go ahead and all right, well, I'll just be dad, and that's what, that's what everybody will say. But that wasn't going to work for me. I couldn't live with that. I couldn't stand that idea. That's not who I was. That's not who I wanted to portray. So I had to figure out what kind of parent I wanted to be. And I wanted to be like my mom. I am like my mom. I'm a lot like my mom. It's weird. I've got my traits that are very much like my dad as well, but I'm a lot like my mom. And so I had to do a lot of soul search and figure out what that was going to look like. And one complication of the fact that I came out after the baby was born was that there were a few months where everybody was like, oh, look, you're dead. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, we really underestimate the capabilities of people who we label as dad. There's weird just expectations that, like, no, moms are going to take care of the kids in any way, shape, or form, to the point that if, we're out in public and, dad gets up and changes the baby's diaper, people are astonished. Like, wow, look at that. That's amazing. It's not amazing. It's parenting. And I experienced that for a few months, and it was weird and stupid. And I spent a lot of time shaking my head at people who were astonished at my ability to take care of my kid. Leading up to her being born, and well, into, trying to figure out how to be a parent after she was here, I was nervous for a long time, worrying about what me being trans was going to mean for her, how that was going to affect her life. And, it's a undeniable fact that it's probably going to come up, and it's probably going to be an issue in certain circles, in some corners, at some point. Right now she's 2. She's going to be 3 shortly, but it's not really an issue right now. Yeah, okay. We take her to daycare, and like, okay, well, she has 2 moms, whatever. We've never actually discussed it. I'm fairly certain everybody at the daycare knows that I'm trans, but, that's not an issue there. But, she's not in public school yet. And there are shitty people out there. And, I worry about how people recognizing, A, that she's got 2 moms, B, that one of them is trans, is going to affect her. If it's going to affect her, if anybody's going to be shitty, if anybody's going to say anything to her, if anybody's going to treat her differently. You want to protect your kids from being hurt, but especially you don't want them to have to deal with any repercussions or suffer in any way because of you and what you're doing with your own life. And it's part of, my job as a parent is to raise a strong, self-assured, independent kid. But as a parent, you can't help but worry about those things. And if there's a part of me that was very insecure about asserting myself, my identity as being her mom. A, because I fathered her. I didn't carry her for 9 months. And there's, a level to which I'm never going to have that. And, if she wasn't my biological child, if we had adopted her, I would still be her mom. But there's still a level of disappointment in that I don't have that specific connection. And not having that and knowing that I'm never going to have that can be dysphoria-inducing. I know it was for me, and I'm sure that it is for a lot of other people as well. And there's always a longing that a lot of trans women have as far as, wanting to have kids. And I got to, not in the way that I would have had I been born cis. Though, to be fair, having observed a live birth from the outside, I'm kind of fine with that. That sucks. And I raise my glass to my wife because it's not fun to do. And I whine when I get a paper cut. That's a lot. But even, once I was out and I'm like, okay, so this is my kid. I'm a woman, clearly. There were still people that didn't get it, didn't wrap their heads around, okay, well, you're mom. And there were people that said, oh, hey, this is your daddy. And I'm like, don't fucking say that to my kid, because don't you confuse her. She's too little to understand what you're saying anyway. She can't even stand up. She can't talk yet. But, it's a thing that you really have to straighten some people out and go, no, I'm not dad. I'm mom. And, there's some people who will probably argue that point and like, well, you can't be mom. Well, if we were adopting a kid, I'd be their mom too. But just because this is my biological child doesn't make me any less of mom. But there is also a level to which I worried about stepping on Rachel's toes. And worried about taking on the mantle of mom and her feeling as if I was stealing something from her. And it, that hasn't been an issue with us, but it was something that I have seen in other relationships, and it's something that I worried about. And I still have conflicted feelings sometimes, the same way that I have conflicted feelings about asserting my womanhood, asserting my identity in a multitude of different ways. And what it boils down to is imposter syndrome. I'm her parent, but there's a level to which sometimes I feel like an imposter in saying I'm her mom. Because there's a level to which I just feel like I stole that, and I just took something that didn't rightly belong to me, which is dumb because it does. And the thing is, your relationship with your kids is yours. It is individual. It is unique. It is beautiful in its own way. And we worried about her being confused about having two moms. She's not confused. She knows exactly who we are, and I get up in the morning and she's like, "Mommy," and it's the greatest feeling in the world. And it makes me happy every single day. And it's not that, and and I worried too. I'm like, oh, is she gonna be confused and like she doesn't understand what a dad is? And no, she gets it. She understands the concept. There's other people in her family that are people's fathers, and she's like, okay, this is so-and-so's father. She understands objectively, okay, this is so-and-so's father at daycare. She understands when she sees dads on TV, this is the father. And it's, okay, whatever. It does not confuse her in the least. She's the most secure and confident in her understanding amongst all of us. And there are going to be very frank conversations at some point when she is a little older and has a little more of a nuanced ability to comprehend what's going on. And because as of right now, she just looks at me and goes, "Oh, that's Mom." She sees old pictures. She's like, "Yeah, I recognize you. That's Mom too. Okay, you're Mom. Whatever." And we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But regardless, however you identify, and however you identify with your kids, is entirely up to you. I know other trans women out there that are like, "No, I was dad, and I'm still dad, and you call me dad." And if people on the outside of our family and our relationship are confused, that's their problem. It's not ours, and that's fine. The same thing goes with a lot of trans guys who are like, "No, I'm Mom. I earned that. That's something that is special and unique between me and my kids, and that's fine." My case is my own, and I'm just happy in my ability to enjoy the relationship that I have with my daughter, and that I get to be her mom. And and I've said this before, if I am any fraction of the parent my mom was, I will have done something right and something good with my life. And the fact that I didn't give up when I wanted to, and I allowed myself to be saved, will have been worth it, because the ultimate purpose of my life is going to be her. My dad always talked to me about that thing where you kind of recognize that in all of history, in all of the vast sea of people that existed as and were your ancestors, that ultimately, when you break it down, all their lives, all their work, everything that they were and they put their effort in this world ultimately led to you. And, it's a crazy cosmic fluke. You can call it a miracle if you want to. And I'm just fortunate enough that I was able to endure long enough to be here for her to exist, and have found the strength to be myself so that I can be the best parent for her. So, when I think about Mother's Day, that's what I think about. And that makes me happy. So, I hope that all of you who identify as moms enjoy the day, enjoy your time and your relationships with your kids. Sometimes kids are a hassle, no matter how young or old they are, but you always love them. And I wish you all a very happy, healthy, and safe Mother's Day. And until next time, this has been Shannon. Thank you for joining me, and we will talk to you later. Bye. This has been Coffee Break, presented by Our Life in Transition.
Our producer is Shannon McDill.
Our theme music is Silky Smooth by Jens Kiilstofte.
Support us on Patreon at patreon.com/OLITPod. That's /OLITPOD.
Your support makes this show possible. Thank you.